Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Growers Not Showers. And oh boy, do we have a special episode today. We are joined by Unks and Mr. 6'6" himself, Mirin Max. Tell us a
I'll
little
take
bit.
that.
Tell us a little bit about how your week has gone, then, mate.
Um, so far at the moment, I'm feeling pretty good. Obviously, I'm on prep at the minute, aren't I? Well, actually, I say that's bullshit. That's a lie. I've just literally sent my check in to Louis, and I was saying that I'm not the happiest with where we're at the moment, but I'm not crying about it. It's just I think it's just the nature of where I am at this moment, and just making comparisons to where I was about a month ago. There's just a few frustrations for me around some of that, but I think is the nature of the beast. It's hard to be objective in when you're in the thick of it, right? And I've just had my feedback from Louis, and he's just said, shut up and get on with it, basically.
Yes, yeah.
So I was gonna say if you don't mind me poking at it a little bit, what kind of things are you not happy about? I know obviously at time of recording you posted a reel recently talking about being flat and posing post workout and kind of pushing through that. I think it'd be good for a lot of listeners because typically with a lot of people who are kind of getting into prep for the first time, what kind of frustrations for you have kind of arisen recently of interest?
So I think so. 4 or 5 weeks ago, I don't know how where to start with it. So I started dieting unofficially, not really prepping, but had a potential to compete in mind. But I've got this thing around like putting the pressure on for actually competing. I don't know what it is. I don't know where that shit comes from, or where it's been built from. But as soon as I've had a date put on me to compete, I really I really struggle in certain ways, like mentally. I don't say like I start crumbling, but I just think I feel that pressure, right? So we started casually dieting. Weight was coming down. I was getting leaner. You probably noticed yourselves that I've been very lean for a very long time. And then I hit like about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I hit like 119 kilos, and my average weight was about 120. So and it was like it was dropping as well. Like, I think the following day, had I not been fed up for like 2 or 3 days, the following day would have been probably like a 118 as well. And but I felt really good. And I think this is the beauty of having plenty of time and really like chilling when you're going through it. Well, my sound's just dropped out. Oh no, we're good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's all right. I think this is the beauty of having all the time in the world when you're dieting and prepping, and you can be a bit more casual with it. Is up until that point, I was like having the occasional off plan. If my mum came round and my brothers were here, we'd order food. I didn't think anything of it, and then and that went on for like several months until the point where I got to 119. Now, obviously, all the shit with Dara and the social media bullshit, and I think off the back of that stress. I developed a sty, which then I got a second sty on the same eye, and then they got infected, and I left it way too long before I saw a doctor. And I said to Louis was like, mate, I think it's probably not the right thing to continue digging right now. I think you should probably just have a bit of time, pulling back, like de-stress, not put your body under any more physiological stress, and just make sure that this eye is good. And in that time, it healed up. I put 7 kilos on, and yeah, I mean, I managed to get
Casually.
down to, yeah, I know, and it didn't even look like I got fat though. Like it was just like fullness. A little bit of condition was lost, but a lot of it was fullness and water, right? And then, but to get to 119 over the space of about 4 months, I was at 119 doing 12k steps, which was very hit or miss. Like, again, this is the beauty of the casualness of it. There was no stress. If I didn't hit 12k, I wasn't crying about it. I was on 3,800 calories. I was having the occasional off plan here or there. Drugs were lower than what they are now. And honestly, mate, I wouldn't have even known I was dieting. I wasn't hungry. I was fucking loving it. It was great. And then we pulled back, put that weight back on, and then obviously I was like, right, I do want to compete. And Louis was like, well, there's a regional in 5.5, 6 weeks. I was like, all right, we can do it. And now because there's a timeline, and I've got restraints I need to work within. Steps have been ramped up to 17,000. I'm not doing any cardio, but cleansing at 40 microgram. Last week we put in Tren at 10 milligrams a day, so 70 milligrams a week. Mass went up to 500. So total load is, or total cycle is like 500 test, 500 mass, 70 Tren, 40 microgram of Clen, and I'm on 3,300 calories, so 500 calories less. So I'm on more drugs, more lipolytics, more growth hormone, doing more, eating less. And this morning I was 121.5, and I feel like fucking asshole. So, and it's purely because I'm digging really into whatever I've got remaining in terms of fat. Like there's no available fat, like faster energy. Do you know what I mean? And I'm having to really like dig into that to draw from that fat loss process. And that feeling is just it's become unnecessarily unenjoyable because of the nature of where I found myself. And I think that's my frustration. Is like if the eye had cleared itself up or didn't exist, if all that bullshit with Dara and social media and all that wasn't ongoing, this wouldn't be a situation right now. I'd probably be leaner than what I was 5 weeks ago, and I'd still be very, enjoying it and feel very comfortable. But, here we are. It is what it is. And it's like it's whinging about, it's kind of just like whinging about something I have no control over. And that's kind of what Louis was like. He's like, yeah, mate, like have a bit of a whinge if it makes you feel better. And I was like, yeah, well, it does actually. It does fucking make me feel better, so you're going to listen to it. And he's like, all right, well, you can moan as much as you want, but it's not going to change anything. And I was like, no, you're right. So,
Yeah, I think with everything that happened with Dara and stuff and like the social media, I think for you it can be so easy to look back on it and be like pissed off and obviously like why did it happen? It got exacerbated way more than it needed to be with random people getting involved. But I think from an outside perspective, I think a lot of people gained respect for you, and you talk about on your stories like playing the role of like a bigger brother in the industry. And like as a younger individual myself, I do kind of see that in you, like a lot of the stuff that you talk about with mental health and like younger individuals with bodybuilding, stuff like that. I feel like a lot of people resonate with it. So as much as you might think, from a competitive standpoint, it wasn't the best thing to happen, but from a personal growth sort of standpoint, I mean, it's very clear that it has been beneficial, at least from my eyes.
You're right, mate, and that's the right perception to have of it, and that's something that I love that kind of stuff, right? Like, and that's the kind of stuff that I have to remind myself of. There's a reason why I'm here. It wasn't by choice, and hindsight is a beautiful thing. But would I change anything over the last few months? No, and I have seen this as like an opportunity. I've seen there's been a lot of positives to where I am right now. But I think sometimes it's very easy to just get caught up in the negative, right? But you're right. Like that is the key to being able to overcome any kind of hardship. Is like remove yourself for a minute. Go, okay, this is hard, and I'm allowed to feel that. But equally, A, what is it teaching me? What am I learning from this thing? And B, what's the reason for being here in the first place? And the reason is a good one. And what I'm learning is go to the doctor sooner. Is that what I mean?
Yeah, I think
don't leave it a week when your eye is like swollen shut.
I think people tend to like force this sort of narrative of bodybuilding being like super hardcore, especially with like stuff like Dara was saying, that it needs to be like eat your food, you train hard, you suffer and prep, all this stuff like that. But bodybuilding is relative to the individual. Like try telling like an amateur bikini girl that she needs to do like hardcore bodybuilding. Like it's dependent on the individual. How serious the goals are is going to dictate how seriously they take bodybuilding. And don't get me wrong, some people like the hardcore stuff, but portraying bodybuilding as super hardcore and like you have to do it this way pushes a lot of people away from it that potentially might enjoy it. So I very much do see your point of view of like being more inviting to individuals coming into the sport. And if they have an adverse reaction from prep, for example, when things do get hard, help them deal with that. Don't just be like, suck it up. This is bodybuilding. You have to suffer. Yeah, of course you have to suffer. but ultimately this you find pleasure in the suffering because you know you're doing something that the majority of people can't do.
I think there's a few different points to what you've just said there, and the first one is everybody is at different stages of their journey, right? And I'll give you an example. You've got a young child, and I know people don't. They hate this child analogy. When I use this, they hate it because they're like, "Well, you're not a child, you're an adult." It's like, okay, let's say you're an adult that's never learned to ride a bike. Okay, fuck the child bit off. But I think it's important. Like, if we use the child analogy, it makes it more understandable because you wouldn't treat a child like this. So why would you treat an adult like this? But let's say there's an adult and he doesn't know how to ride a bike. He's never been taught by his parents, right? He's never been taught by his parents how to ride a bike. He's never been around friends who know how to ride bikes and teach him. He doesn't have an older brother or sister to teach him to ride a bike. And so he gets to 22 years old and he now wants to learn how to ride a bike. Two things. Do you put him on a bike without any stabilizers first go, and then just get him on the seat and kick him, and then go, right, go on, fucking learn? Or do you put him on a bike with stabilizers, or do you hold the bike as he's learning to pedal, regardless of whether it's a child or adult, and you like help him get his mojo, like the swinging things, like, okay, this is how I've got a balance, this is... So what in essence what you're doing is you're either making riding a bike easier by having stabilizers on it initially. Okay, is that the experience of riding a bike? No, it isn't, because you've got the stabilizers on. But it will allow you to eventually learn to ride the bike, right? It's the step up. Or if you're there alongside, helping them, guiding them, because maybe the issue isn't the action, but it's the confidence to execute the action. Well, that's what a coach does, right? Like, someone tries to do something, and maybe they are capable of doing the thing, but they just need you in the corner and go, mate, you can do this, come on. Like, you stood behind them going, this is just how you ride a bike, fucking do it. Like, it's hard, all right? You're going to fall off and fucking scrape your elbows and hurt yourself and break a leg. Just fucking go down that hill and you'll learn. Like, no, mate.
Riding a bike is hardcore.
That's a fucking stupid thing to do. Like, how fucking stupid is that? And I hate that narrative around, like, what bodybuilding is or should be according to that individual, you know? The next point is, Dara described other people, or he used the term weak bodybuilders, right? He labelled people as weak, and it's very easy for him to do that now, where he is, you know, in his ivory tower, having built all the skills and the tools and had all the knowledge from Cuba and all the support that he's had from Cuba and the experience over a decade of, like, bodybuilding. It's very easy for him at the top now of his journey to look down at people who have done half the amount of time or who have had half the amount of experience and then go, yeah, it's just fucking hard, this is what I do, just get on with it. Like, no, yeah. You were once shit, right? And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, this is a really good thing. In fact, fortunately, bodybuilding is becoming incredibly popular, and actually it's creating a really positive outlet for a lot of young people that have nothing, right? And that's what I'm working with at the moment. The demographic that I'm working with at the moment is kids ranging from 70. I say kids because I'm old and I'm fucking unk nowadays. But
mega unk.
Yeah, I know. But like, I'm working with young lads between the ages of 17 to about 24, 25. That's my rough, like, demographic. And, you know, some are way more experienced than others, some are way more capable than others, but ultimately they've found something in bodybuilding now that is giving them a sense of meaning and purpose, and it's a direction and something that they can pursue and feel like provides them fulfillment in their life, right? Now, are they going to be very good at it? No, not to start. And because of how popular it is, and because of the nature of the ages that are trying to get into it now, and their lack of experience, objectively, I don't like the word weak, because weak is is a toxic way of saying inexperienced. But let's go with Dara's narrative, right? There's a lot of objectively weak individuals getting into bodybuilding. Has bodybuilding gone soft? Yeah, it has. Why has it gone soft? Because there's a lot of young kids that are really inexperienced, trying to bodybuild and not really understanding the extremities of what is entailed within bodybuilding. Is that our job and responsibility to shame them, or just tell them if they don't fit in, then they need to just fuck off? No. Do you know what that is? Do you know what have you ever seen the Louis Theroux Manosphere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That is what that is. That exists within bodybuilding. Dara is like fucking HS Tiki Toki. It's the same thing. Right? It's like he's completely missed the point of A, of what bodybuilding is and should be, and B, how you go from where these beginners are to where he is, and at the forefront of how I think and deal with people is what's the best way that this person can be nurtured to develop the skills to be able to get to where I'm at right now. Is it talk down to them, tell them that they don't belong because they're not very good, and just tell them to get on with it when they don't have the tools to be able to do that? Or is it actually invest lots of time, energy, lots of my time and energy into them to try and help build them up over a period of time so that they can get there, and not make them feel like they're being shunned away from something that they've probably developed a love for, right? Like, I grew up reading, I grew up watching like Z's and my dad bought me Mirin Max, Z's, right? So my dad bought me the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding when I was like 19 years old.
That's a
and I used
classic.
to watch Arnie, and I used to go on YouTube and listen to like Arnold Schwarzenegger motivational videos, but when I first started, I was obsessed. I loved it, and I was like, I'm going to look like Arnold one day. Totally naive to the fact that that was never going to happen. But I was so in love with like the idea of this self-development and becoming someone that I wanted to be, and moving further away from someone who actually, because I was so insecure, I didn't want to be. Right? I really didn't want to be the person I was when I was 19 years old. And how wonderful would it have been if... No, different tack. I've got two different avenues. I go and find me now, and he acknowledges that I have nowhere near all the skills and tools to be able to build this physique, right?
Yeah.
But he's prepared to help me and nurture me and make me still feel like I belong within this thing that I've obviously fallen in love with. Or I go and meet someone like Dara, who basically makes me feel shit because I'm really struggling with all of these things, because I don't have the experience. And when I'm met with, and when I explain to him I'm struggling or something is hard, I'm met with, well, that's kind of the point, mate. Like, that doesn't really serve anyone, does it? So. Yeah, that's my take on all of that, and I just I don't like it. I've gone on a bit of a tangent there. I'm sorry.
Nah, mate, you're good. It reminds me of, I saw a post from you. I don't know when it was. It was fairly recently, and it's kind of something that like really resonated with me personally, because it was something along the lines of like you were talking about. I think you used Dara as an example and other bodybuilders, and you were like, when these people who are so deep into their careers talk about, oh, you need to nail it, like, how dare you fuck up, that's fucking disgraceful. Those are people who've probably fucked up, and some kind of role model or coach has supported them and got them to that point. It's like, that kind of resonates with me personally, because like I started off and I was fucking awful with adherence, and the only thing that's kind of got me to the point now where I feel like I'm pretty damn good at adhering is through just continually wanting to and picking myself back up. And I think if someone had kind of kicked me when I'm down, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be to the point where now like a client tells me they fucked up and I'm like, man, that reminds me of myself when I was younger, and now I'm at a point where I never thought that I'd ever be this consistent. I think kind of everyone to some extent goes through that. Like if you look at most people who talk the talk and are super, super dialed, you ask most of them about their first prep and it will be like, oh yeah, that was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Instagram wasn't as big then, but it still happened. Do you think, or if you do, where do you think that comes from, that idea of like people kind of lose themselves and their roots and become, I don't know, this ideal picture perfect bodybuilder to the point where they kick other people for making mistakes that they made at that age? Where do you think that comes from, or why do you think that is? Because I feel like it's definitely something that happens a lot, and a lot of people don't talk enough about like, yeah man, when I was 19 I was a fucking awful bodybuilder, because of course I was, like I was a kid, you know. Like, where do you think it comes from?
That's a really, really good question, by the way, and I think I'm gonna go like come at it from a few different angles, and I don't want to spend all my time speaking about Dara, so I'm not going to mention his name on this one. But ultimately, what I think is, for those kind of people, what's happened is, I think there's a potential for them to have, throughout their bodybuilding experience, they haven't had the support that I'm suggesting that they should give, right? And I think this is where I differ, because I look at my experience as a 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old, and I go, I didn't have that support, but I still managed to find my way, right? I navigated my way to where I am now, and a large, I would say 70% of that entire journey was spent without that support, without someone like me in my corner to be able to help me navigate all of that. And I think when you do that, I think some people go one way and they go, well, I had to do it, so you do as well, right? Like I had to struggle and I managed to find my way, right? And that's because I have the minerals and I have the mindset and I have the tenacity and whatever else it is. I have these things, and if you aren't prepared to just get on with it, suffer, struggle like I have, then you obviously aren't built for bodybuilding. Me, I had the same experience, but I've gone a different way, which is, wow, if someone had helped me the same way I'm trying to help people now, I would be where I am now, but 5 years ago. Right? So, like, in my head, I don't want someone to struggle for nearly a decade to try and get to where I'm at. I want someone to progress much faster than that. I want them to have a much smoother journey through bodybuilding. I want them to not have them question whether or not they belong in this thing that they love. Right? I want them to. I just want them to have the appropriate amount of guidance and support to be able to make that journey as efficient and as enjoyable as possible. There are going to be hardships, there are going to be struggles, of course there is, but let's not make it unnecessarily difficult, right? Like let's try and make it as enjoyable and as easy and as efficient as possible, and that's effectively what a coach should do, right? We just try and refine that. So yeah, I just think it's. I also think this will be a little bit tongue in cheek, but I also think there's a little bit of ego involved. I also think it's this sense of self-importance. I think people forget very quickly how much they struggled, and I think it's very easy to get to a certain stage or be at a certain level or be far more advanced than others, and then make yourself feel good because you're better than everyone else or you're better than some people. And then because of that, in the process, it's kind of like, it almost elevates you by shitting on them. Like, if you can't do this like I did, then you're shit and I'm great. And that to me doesn't make sense either, but I do think there's an element of that.
I think they try to portray this narrative of like being nurturing as a coach is somehow viewed as weak, and it's something that you don't want to have. But I'm going to use me and Jack as an example. Like Jack pretty much brought me under his wing, I want to say 1 or 2 years after I started training. And the narrative that we've always had was obviously that he was my coach and there was a certain level of authority there, but it was almost like a brotherly relationship in the sense of like, even if something happened external to bodybuilding, I knew I could always go to him to talk about it, because ultimately we all know external variables, relationships, jobs, stress, all this stuff can have a big impact on our ability to bodybuild. And this allowed me to set higher standards for myself to the point where, like, recently we had Christian on the pod, and he was talking about like some of the things his younger athletes do. And I was genuinely shocked because Jack had shielded me from all of that. And, stuff like binging, the adherence stuff, like I've genuinely always just been good at it because I've had Jack in my corner to pick me up every time I've had a bit of a fall or a stumble. If we flip that narrative, and let's say Jack was not Jack, and every time I had a fall and a stumble, he said, "Shut the fuck up, mate, get back up. This is bodybuilding." I don't think I would have taken it the same way. I wouldn't have had the conversations to learn the lessons that I needed to. And ultimately, I wouldn't be in the position that I am today. So I think being nurturing as a coach is one of the best things that you can do in this industry. And I don't like the fact that they make being nurturing as a coach sound bad, as if you shouldn't want to do that. You shouldn't want to look after your clients,
I think there's go on, mate.
I was just gonna say it's kind of I realised it's kind of like this weird narrative of like, oh, prep is brutal. It should be so hard. Like, it's got to be. You got to be. It's gonna break you down. It's gonna be horrible. But then by the same token, it's like, but I'm not going to support you. It's kind of this platforming bodybuilding as like, this is one of the hardest, most serious things you'll ever do. And also you should just kind of get on with it. Stop complaining. Why are you complaining so much? It's like this weird kind of dichotomy of like, like this really hard, difficult thing, but equally you should just be able to do it. And there's no understanding or support there.
Do you know there's a really interesting conversation here, and I don't know the answer to it, and I think like I would love this kind of conversation to be had on a much higher platform with much more experienced coaches and bodybuilders, but what happens, right, as I see it, is in order to get the best out of someone, you need to be able to push them to their limit, and then ever so slightly beyond it, to a point that is within reach for them to achieve that next step, right? That's what growth is. You apply a little bit of pressure beyond their current level of skill, but so that they have the ability to reach for that new hard, difficult thing, and then set a new bar for themselves, and go, right, okay, I can get to this new level, and then we do that again. If you push someone too far, too fast, there will be a negative implication of that, and usually that will look like an injury, someone having, like, if we're talking drugs or just the environment that someone exists within, we could be talking like psychological breakdowns. If someone, in terms of like food and their exposure to an extreme diet, we could be talking binge eating, right? There's multiple different things or negative implications of doing that. So the job, the trick as a coach is to measure that, is to get that thing right. That is a very, very difficult thing to do, and I think every coach has a hard time doing that, right? I think it's a very hard thing to measure and guess, but you try and navigate your way around it as best as you can. Now, the problem is athletes want to be the best, right? That's the first thing. The coach wants athletes to be the best. That's the second thing. So all of a sudden, you're setting standards and expectations of what A, the person wants to be, and B, the coach wants them to be, because it looks good for both. And there's a lot of ego and there's a perception of what that looks like to each individual. If a coach delivers a first timer absolutely peeled out of his fucking brains on stage, it looks great on the coach, right? It equally looks great for a first timer. So there's that. But then a great coach, a truly amazing coach, will have all of the skills to communicate all of the problems that the client is potentially going to encounter, and able to teach them all of those things so that they don't have that negative implication of being pushed. So that's the measure, right? How far you can push someone and how far beyond their current limit is purely based, without any negative drawback, is based purely on the athlete's ability to learn quickly and the coach's ability to teach quickly and adequately. And I think that is often lost in translation. I think the second thing is, it's very, very easy, and this is the big thing. This is what I think is a massive thing in bodybuilding with coaches, not athletes. It's very, very easy when a coach pushes an athlete to the absolute extremities, and they push and push and push. No more, no more. Do you want to be the best? No, we need glutes. We need glute lines. And your back needs to be fucking like a Christmas tree, and I want to see abs coming out of your fucking forehead, like not abs, veins even. Like I want veins everywhere. I want you to just look like a fucking huge vein, right? And it's like and then they push that, and then they can't hack it, obviously, right? And then what happens when they binge and they don't get there and they keep fucking up? What does the coach do?
You just don't want it bad enough.
That's bodybuilding, mate. That's bodybuilding. It's fucking hard. You just need to get on with it. No. You've not coached them properly, because that shouldn't happen, right? And that isn't their responsibility to know that. It's yours, because you're the coach, right? That's why they come to you, to avoid problems like that. If you push them too hard in the binging, eating, that's your fault, right? But for a coach to stop and go, I've made a mistake here, this is on me, but because I can acknowledge that I've made a mistake, I can learn from it, and we can be better next time. But acknowledging wrongdoing is to admit that you've made a mistake. And for coaches to admit that they've made mistakes makes them look bad, ruins their reputation, and all of a sudden you've got this entire fucking shit show whereby coaches take no responsibility, push their clients to an absolute extreme that they shouldn't be going to, don't have the ability to support them in trying to achieve that extreme, and then it's not their fault when it doesn't all come together. And that's the bodybuilding. That's the coaching bodybuilding industry.
I like what you said about like getting adverse effects from pushing people too much. There's a term we chuck around as rehab coaches. Like the poison is in the dose. And I think that's very applicable in this situation. Obviously, from a drug perspective, I mean, obviously taking more drugs is going to be more poisonous, but it also goes to all other variables we control as coaches. You know,
yeah,
food,
mate, that's mint.
training.
I love that saying. That's wicked.
Yeah, so obviously overtraining can lead to adverse effects. I mean, constantly being mashed up and being sick is what I'm having to deal with recently. Or, for example, pushing to extreme levels of diets, like you said, you can get an eating disorder. It's very much prevalent. Like, who are you to say that it's the client's fault when they were simply following your orders? And I think, like you said, there's a certain level of responsibility you have to take on with that. And just assuming everyone who does bodybuilding is hardcore is going to simply lead people down that path, because, you know, they might prep once. Cool, bodybuilding is not for them. That's fine. They tried it. But that doesn't mean they have to take it to the extreme the first time. That might be the reason they don't like bodybuilding. I mean, we can all agree, like, with every single year I bodybuild, I consistently got more accurate, you know, more challenging, more stimulus, more food, everything just improved with every single year. It's not like the first year I went straight into prep, you know, eating dust, climbing a mountain. Like, it's just, you work your way up into that. And I think, like you said, you're just going to push people away from the sport. And it's sad to see, because we all want to see bodybuilding grow. And because of that, we all have a responsibility to the younger demographic, myself included.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
22.
22, fucking hell. Yeah, you are young. 10 years
Yeah. But yeah, to almost pioneer them through the sport and guide them down the right path. You know, it's not to say that we're going to go easy on them. Obviously, bodybuilding is hard. That's why we love it, right? But if no one is there to guide them, they're just going to either steer away from it or go down the easy route, as in taking more drugs or, doing stuff that isn't necessarily the smartest thing to do.
Mm.
So yeah, 100% agree.
It's really difficult, mate, because these, I don't think these conversations are had. I think a lot of coaches don't want to have these conversations for obvious reasons, and I think it's very easy to prey on a young adult's insecurities and dreams of becoming not necessarily like a pro bodybuilder, but just prey on their desire to want to be significantly better than who they are or what they are now, right? It's really easy to prey on that because they're young, they're inexperienced, they're naive, and they have a lot of insecurities around that. And so you fill someone with illusions of grandeur. You sell a dream to someone, of course, and then you've got maybe some evidence to back that up. Of course, you're going to get people through your door who are looking to replicate the success of your previous clients. The problem that lies there is when you're not treating each person as an individual, but you're trying to make them fit into a box that you've created. If they don't fit into that box, and then you tell them they're not cut out for it, or you create a negative experience for them, it has such a massive impact, and I see it like all the time, man, all the fucking time. Young lads, 18, 19, 20, 21, so even in the mid-20s, and it just doesn't go the way that they expect. But it doesn't go the way that they expect because they've been sold a pipe dream, and they've not been given the appropriate support and the right amount of realistic expectations to go along with it, right? And that then becomes incredibly disheartening, and in of itself can create a lot of psychological battles for someone later on in life. And I don't say that lightly. Like, that's not something that I say. Psychological battles. People go, "Fucking hell, that sounds a bit extreme," but you think someone's entire identity is tied to their physique. You tell them that you can make them win a show one day or turn pro, and then you smash them, and with whatever it is that you smash them with, and they can't live up to that, and you're not supporting them the way that you're supposed to support them, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, well, that's on you, not me. They come away from that experience and they'll go, like, fucking hell, I'm not the person that I thought I was, and I can't become this person that I've dreamed of becoming, and they start questioning everything, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Just everything that they first thought, every bit of confidence that they had, every exciting little dream that they thought they could create for themselves, now is being brought into question because the thing that they originally went for didn't work out, and apparently it was on them. It's their fault. They didn't do the thing. They didn't perform. They didn't want it enough. Nobody fails. Nobody chooses to fail.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody.
Write that down.
Nobody chooses to fail. Nobody chooses to be weak. Nobody. Right. If someone fails, it's a consequence of the
Trying.
lack of skills or tools that they have in that moment to be able to do the thing, or the environment that they're doing it in. That's it.
If you look at... Sorry, go on, man.
No, go on, mate. Yeah.
I was just going to say again, like, a lot of the top coaches now who, like, are competing at high levels, who have got bodybuilding down to a T, you listen to how they started getting into it, like, especially through your pod, Max, like, so it's like, oh, how'd you get into bodybuilding? Oh, I just trained, I enjoyed it, and I ate crap, and I kind of did whatever, and then eventually I got to a point where I was like, oh, I want to pursue this further, But now, because there's kind of, the I guess, a pressure on coaches to deliver people to stage, and the stage is more of a thing, bodybuilding is more of a thing. Now it's like you have people who, like teens and juniors, but probably more so teens. It's like, like a prep might be their first proper diet. And I've had a client who was a teen, and natural and his first like prep was his first ever diet, so there had to be some serious expectation setting that went into that, right? And so I think the thing is, because of that kind of pressure, I think a lot of people who say like, oh yeah, you should just be kind of locked into it, it's like, well, you didn't choose bodybuilding, you kind of fell into it. It's like, oh, I'm already doing these things, I'm already kind of, you know, along those lines, I'm already kind of enjoying this. There wasn't that like, oh, I want to get on stage because that's what you do, or I want to grow a coaching business, or you know, I want to be a bodybuilder, or I'm so insecure about how I look, maybe I should do a prep or whatever, or, you know, just getting carried away.
It was a very natural evolution.
Yeah. And so they kind of almost through outside events got guided into bodybuilding. So there's almost like a survivorship bias there of like the people who naturally fell into it, naturally did okay, naturally kept pursuing it. It's like, well, yeah, obviously I don't want to go and binge because I'm a bodybuilder and I've been doing it for 10 years and I really enjoy bodybuilding, and my food's at 4,000 calories and I weigh 300 pounds and, like, you know, I've made a career out of this, so why the fuck would I do anything else? And so, you know, when people kind of, I think when people disconnect from like how people are going into bodybuilding now, where they see preps existing and they're like, oh, I want to do that, and they haven't got any of the tools because they're choosing to kind of almost run before they can walk. I think that's where people go wrong. And it's like the amount of times I have to have conversations with clients going into prep where I'll be like, hey, look, your entire day is based around looking your best for a particular day, and not just looking your best, but actively looking better than other people. And you're going to be stood on stage in your underwear and judged on your appearance, and your entire day is focused on that. That is going to fuck with your head, right? No matter how many, I mean, like, even talking to like a few experienced bodybuilders who've talked to me about my prep, they're like, oh, how are you handling post-show? Having those conversations, and I'll be like, oh, this feels a bit weird, that feels a bit weird. And they're like, yeah, that never goes away. I'm like, oh, okay, so you guys are just like more experienced with handling, I'm slowly getting fatter and slowly getting softer, and that feels like such a weird switch. And it's like
exposure.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
that's it.
The only thing that kind of separates those people who are struggling with the people who supposedly aren't struggling is just the people who aren't struggling are slightly more used to it, and it's slightly more familiar, and it's a bit more here we go again. And yeah, I think a lot of coaches and very experienced athletes are kind of very disconnected from how things are going for those people, and especially if they're posting like their own preps, it furthers that idea of like prep as a rite of passage for people who go into the gym and vaguely chase muscle growth. Like, I remember, like you said, with like Ziz and stuff, like back in the day it used to be all about the aesthetics, bruh. The Trident, you know, Ziz, like recreational drugs, maybe steroids, although steroids kind of back in the day really weren't a thing. And, you know, like, yeah, like, look good, maybe have some legs, but, like, abs, arms, chest, bro. And, like, bro lifting in the gym, bro, and, like, you know, the idea of, like, cheat meals and stuff, all of that was, like, that's what you did. But now it's, like, prep and bodybuilding and getting on stage and can you
hardcore
compete as a teen? Can you compete as a junior? Can you win an overall as a natural teen by coming in absolutely peeled? And it's, like, I think it's very different. It's a very different sphere, and it's much more outcome focused rather than process focused like it used to be. And yeah, I think coach is acting like someone who's, you know, younger than probably when they started competing, with less time in the gym, being so focused on an outcome and a perception of that idea, acting like they're just gonna nail it is very naive. You know, like you can't help that. Like I said in prep, your entire day is focused around how, like, basically vanity, right? Like competitive vanity. It's like that's going to wreak like absolute hell on your psychology. You know, you see people weighing in 100 grams heavier after a dig, and they're like, fuck, and it's, you know, you already see them start to spin a little bit.
I mean, just even my experience with Louis at the moment. Again, it's very easy to get knocked off course, even with experience and having done it for a very long time. And so to assume that someone 10 years my junior would be able to, you know, do it as well as me or with half the experience, I think there's just there's just a lot that's so difficult to manage and hard to measure, and I just think that's what makes bodybuilding and the coaching sphere very, very hard at times, very difficult, and I do think that's what separates the good coaches from the bad. That isn't to say that there aren't. That isn't to say that there aren't a lot of bad coaches at the top, and I do believe that. I think because just because they've got to it sooner, and they've had more exposure, and because, and I might get a bit of backlash for saying this, but you get to a certain point as a bodybuilding coach whereby once you've provided enough results, you're going to attract a certain kind of clientele. And usually that kind of clientele are going to do exactly what it is that they're told, right? It becomes less about being able to teach someone to stick to a diet, and it becomes more about the nuance of actually what it is that exists within bodybuilding, and understanding them as the individual and then delivering that to them. The execution, the staying on plan, that by and large, I'm not saying it's all the time, but that by and large is without question. It's not something you need to try and micromanage. And that makes you looking good as a coach very, very easy, because let's be real, right? The easy bit is getting to know someone. The easy bit is reading data off a tracker, right? The easy bit is doing your homework and like educating yourself. And if you're particularly passionate about bodybuilding, that just is second nature. Like, you don't need to fucking, oh God, I've got to learn more things about bodybuilding. It's like, no, I fucking love bodybuilding. Like, the learning things about bodybuilding is fucking mint. It's the psychology of the individual and like trying to get them to do what it is that you want them to do, which is the hard bit. And so at a certain point, your business is kind of running itself. And it takes, you seriously, I believe you seriously got to fuck it up once you get to that level, in order for it to like take a massive or massively impact your coaching reputation and business.
Mate, look at Matt Jansen. He got sorry man, I'll keep it brief. Like, he got outed like
You're good.
a couple years ago or whatever for just like having absolutely stupid protocols, and everyone was like, this makes absolutely no sense, and everyone was like, how is he getting results? And it's like, well, he's just attracting pure freaks. And so it's like, you take a freak and you give them a plan and you give them anything, and it's like, yeah bro, go to the gym and take some drugs and eat some food, and we'll slowly do more of that over time. Like, they all respond, they all grow. And
it's the Ronnie Coleman effect. Anything Ronnie Coleman did and he was going to look like a fucking freak. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could have coached him blindfolded.
Yeah, it literally, like, exactly that. It's like there's a certain level of like, I kind of, it's almost those transformations that are the most important are like, where was the starting point and then where's the end point? If it's like, oh, we took someone who was 5 years deep, incredibly talented, and then we just gave them another 5 years, and now they're 10 years deep and incredibly talented. It's like, yeah, cool, that's sick. But like, what about someone who came to you, they looked a bit naff, and now they're a couple years in and they look fucking sick, and before they were kind of shoddy at bodybuilding, skipped gym sessions, didn't do cardio, never even heard of the word mobility, thinking about trying some psalms off TikTok shop, yada yada yada, and it's like, now they're still natural, things are flying, they're feeling good, like they're thinking of stepping on stage but they're in no hurry, things like that. Like, that's a transformation. I think, yeah, it's very...
I've done a few of those in my time.
Inquiry link down below.
Straight up, but it's fucking frustrating though, isn't it? Like, when you do that kind of shit, like, I mean, that is my clientele. And I don't mean to plug the coaching, but like, that is my clientele. Like, people who are young, who are inexperienced, who haven't got fucking Scooby, or they've been at it 3 or 4 years and they've not really got anywhere because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And like, it's that gap between knowing and doing, right? A lot of people know what they're supposed to do, but doing it is a completely different thing. And the doing bit is largely what goes on up here, as opposed to more knowledge. And mate, like, I've had I feel so uncomfortable plugging it. I've had a lot of amazing transformations with young lads between like the age of 19 and 25 within 2 to 3 years, and you look at them and you're like there's a few lads, natural lads, and you're like, these are on gear. That there's no way you go from that to that, and he isn't taking fucking gear. But they're not. They're natural, it's just that's the frustrating bit for me as a coach. But I'll cry harder.
I've got one question that I was meaning to ask you before we hopped on. So I was having this conversation with my mate the other day. I'm very big into drum and bass, so shout out to your brother Telen. I'm one of his biggest fans. But anyways, do you think drum and bass has directly influenced how much muscle you have built?
Yes.
And why?
Oh fucking hell! So many answers to that question. I think drum and bass gives me drum and bass has given me fucking hell, mate. This is actually a big question and really deep. So drum and bass, I believe, has single-handedly allowed me to express and explore my own emotions, because it can bring me all the way up here and all the way down here and everything in between. It can make me feel things that I've never felt before in my life, right? Listening to certain songs and music or whatever, certain songs. And it's like how I can use those range of emotions and apply them to bodybuilding directly has improved that, right? Like how I can bring myself up in relation to my experience with drum and bass, and then apply that to bodybuilding where I need it. How I can channel different emotions and experiences and apply that to bodybuilding. I also think drum and bass has, and this is an ADHD thing, which is it helps me focus. It helps me be organised. And I like me and Harvey. It would be, I think people would find it quite amusing watching us around the house, like engaging with each other, because we exist 80% of the time with either headphones on or earbuds in, and like when we speak, like I'll shout Harvey, and very rarely do I get an answer because I have to actually go and find him because he can't hear me, right? But it's like we function so well with just drum and bass on all the time, and it just helps us I think what it is I think someone told me this with ADHD is drum and bass is stimulating enough to keep your mind from wandering, but it's not too overstimulating like it is for most people, whereby it's pulling me away from menial tasks. So I can just listen to it and it almost like makes me laser into stuff as opposed to like take me away from it.
Yeah, I think the whole like tapping into certain emotions, like when you're training, or in my case specifically, tapping into certain drops and mixes, for like specific sets is really, really fucking important. Another reason why drum and bass for me is so important is because it reminds me of like the people who got me into gym also got me into drum and bass, and some of the memories that I've made with them. My whole first year of training was during lockdown. My mate had like a dusty garage, which is about the size of this room, maybe even smaller. And we had like a bench, a barbell and some plates, and that was it. And me and my mate used to go in there. We'd have a massive JBL speaker, put drum and bass on full volume. Yeah, put it on full volume and just do like barbell bench, shoulder press, fucking Russian twists, because that's all we had access to.
Maybe same. Like that, honestly, I've had similar experiences. And if, on occasion, if you're feeling a little bit rogue, just roll up a joint as well and have a blaze while you're smashing the gym.
Oh yeah, no, I've got this one really, really fond memory where like Will was holding, he's my mate, he was holding a zoo and I was doing barbell shoulder press, and for every rep that I did, he'd give me a poke.
Amazing. God, I'd be fucking battered by the end of that set.
Oh man, but like this is what I mean though. Like again, go down to the point of like bodybuilding is so serious. It's so nice to like reminisce the old school days, or like throwing back to like why I actually started this shit. And I very much tie drum and bass into that. Like when I am tired and I have those days where I don't necessarily want to go in and train to my utmost potential, if I put on a mix that I know emotionally stimulates me, for example, Titan's new mix, by the way, it's really good. But anyways, if I put on a mix that really emotionally stimulates me, like I will get the job done. Like, and you'll see me like pacing around the gym, like literally head down, just like bopping, because like that allows me to get into the zone where I'm able to progress. So like, I honestly think drum and bass is one of the reasons why I've been able to put on so much muscle. I don't think any other genre of music would be able to stimulate me enough in order for me to perform at that level in the gym.
Yeah, mate, I agree. I think like obviously it's very individual, right? It's each person's different, and I think just some people, and that's what music is, right? People resonate differently with different genres of music, and you know what country does for one person might be the same as what drum and bass does for me. I find that very very difficult to fucking believe or imagine, but like that's probably the case in terms of like being able to tap into emotions and explore things and. But yeah, for me particularly, I mean, there does seem to be culture around bodybuilding and drum and bass. You know, there's a bodybuilding rave culture. There's a bodybuilding and drum and bass culture. Like there's a bodybuilding and heavy metal culture. There isn't a fucking bodybuilding and country culture. Do you know what I mean? That. And if there is, I'm fucking sorry if you're one of those people.
Yeah, cowboy boots in the gym.
Yeah, Taylor Swift on while you're training. So it's been a massive influence in my. I mean, obviously with Harvey being a DJ as well, you fucking couldn't escape it.
Who are your top three producers?
Wilkinson.
Ooh,
Valid.
That was good. This
You can't say your brother.
Nah,
Yeah.
well, he's not into production yet, but I'm gonna say Wilkinson, Subfocus, but I mean, fucking hell, this is really difficult. I like
Put you on
number
the spot.
three would be it'd be a mix between Camo and Crooked, K9, and Unglued.
Unglued's a good one, you
I'm
know.
gonna go rogue, and I'm gonna say Unglued. I think Unglued is a massively
Underrated. Yeah, I like that.
underappreciated, very, very, very unique producer, and hopefully, because I speak to him quite a lot. Hopefully, we see more of him over the coming years, because I think something that's been I've gone on a bit of a tangent again away from bodybuilding, but I think one of the things that's been holding him back is he's had a contract with who are they called? I forget. There's like there's different people, aren't there? There's like D&D All Stars, Worried About Henry. What's the liquid one? It's a bit more.
Liquidicity?
No, it's a different one. Anyway, he's had a contract with them for ages, and it's sort of just come up. It's reached its term, and I think it gives him a lot more freedom to play at different events and do more. And I think, I think we'll see more of Josh in the coming years.
who do you think's overrated in the D&B scene, if anyone? Because I've got one name that immediately springs to mind. But to be fair,
I've got one
back in the day,
personally.
I used to think he's overrated. I don't think he's as big anymore.
Headaches. He was going to say Headaches.
No, I like Headaches.
I like Headaches. I think he's
I like
very
Headaches.
versatile. I think there's a lot more depth there than people
I was
think.
going to go Mackie G.
Mackie G.
Yeah.
Mate, Tor's sick. What are you on about? That song alone is enough to put him like top 5 producers of all time.
Mate, he used to be. I remember like when I first got into D&B when I was like 17. That and literally getting into the gym at like roughly a similar time. It used to just be like Mackie G everything, and now I'm like, I'm not like as into the D&B rabbit hole, but as I kind of explore more and more, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not the biggest Mackie G fan. There's definitely better artists out there, like Wilkinson. I've listened to a lot of Wilkinson.
Overrated.
Wilkinson, K9, Subfocus. I like Ivy as well. I don't know if that kind of ties into drum and bass, because she does a lot of dubstep and hardstyle and stuff. But I think her mixing is very unique, and I like how she ties in like pretty much 4 different genres into one mix.
I think overrated. I'm not saying he's bad, but I think overrated probably Dimension.
Really? Did you listen?
I think he's great, but I think he's massive, isn't he? And like he's go on, mate.
I was going to say, do you listen to the recent Skrillex album?
No.
Fucking what's
No.
it called? Mate, it's really good D&B. It's unreal. The whole album is basically one continuous track, back to back to back, and it kind of changes throughout different D&B genres, and it's absolutely phenomenal.
I'll have
Put
to
the
give that
whole
a
thing
listen.
on back to back. It's fucking good. I hadn't listened
No,
to
give
No,
it a go.
Skrillex does DMB.
Mate, he does everything. Like I hadn't listened to him back from like the the Bangarang, Scary Monsters, Nice Sprites days, like old school. And oh, what's the name of it? I'm trying to put it up on Spotify.
The collabs with Fred again have obviously been
Yeah.
insane.
Fred again is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I went to one of his boiler rooms. It was honestly fucking mind-boggling experience.
That's one thing as I've got become a better bodybuilder and obviously a busier coach is like getting out to those events and doing that kind of stuff has become increasingly more hard to try and do logistically. That's one thing that I miss and I can't wait to get back to when I sort of knock bodybuilding on the head is getting back to that kind of stuff.
How do people react? Because like, I'm not gonna lie, if I went to a drum and bass rave and I see a 6'6", 120 kilo bloke without his top on, with sunglasses on, fucking waving his 22-inch arms around, I'm not sure how I'd react. I think I'd be a bit scared.
So I
Like,
used to go all the time and I used to love it, but then over the last like 2 or 3 years, more so the last 2 years, I used to get red hot all the time and I'd be like drenched in sweat, as horrible as that sounds, but like I get warm very quickly being my size and I was always taking my top off because I needed to take it off, but I've become more reluctant to do that because of that exact reason. You just get loads of people just hounding you all the time. Oh my God, you're so tall. Oh my God, you're so big. Oh my God, what do you bench? I'm like,
what do you bench is a classic.
I'm just trying to fucking enjoy the music. Please leave me.
I remember at uni.
Do you know like when
being
someone's
like, oh,
because I'm not like a chatty pinger. Like when I'm pinging, I'm not like I just want to just sit and enjoy the moment and like be with my people. But you know those people who when they're pinging they're just like yummy 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 yummy. You're like they're in your ear and you're like yeah just fucking stop spitting in my face.
Oh, I love you so much, Max. I don't think you understand.
Hey, mate, yeah.
Oh, fucking
I've
hell.
been there, done that. I've got the experience. I can, yeah.
It's,
I feel
it's
like I'm
always
qualified to
funny
speak on these
how
things.
as bodybuilders get bigger, almost get like shyer with their physiques. I feel like when you first start the gym, it's like tight t-shirts and vests everywhere, and then you get to the point where like you're kind of a public spectacle, and that's when it's like the hoodies go.
Public spectacle.
I remember like Fuad talking about it, and he was like, he went to like the grocery store, and if he was wearing like something a bit revealing, like lads would be like, "Oh, you look sick." I think he said it was like overweight women would be like giving him like, "Oh, what is that? Oh," and he'd be like, "Like you're literally morbidly obese. Shut up! Like, what are we doing here?"
Yeah, right back at you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, it's so funny watching like bodybuilders like all dressed up and like covering stuff. I remember when I ran into you, Max, at one of the PCA shows with Josh and Tim were there. I can't remember what it was. It was like some random time, and like I roughly saw you, and I remember being like, Jesus Christ, that's a big hoodie. That's a big person in that hoodie, and that's a very tall man. And it's like I can't fathom wearing. I can't imagine what wearing a vest in public would be like. I feel like I'd almost get like social anxiety going out the house.
Yeah,
Like,
in the gym, in Ultraflex, absolutely fine because it's kind of like, what's that thing? You desensitise everyone's desensitized to what is big.
Everyone's
like,
wham.
Yeah. So it's like it's no big deal. But mate, you would not catch me wearing a vest outside of Ultraflex. Fucking hell, no way. That I would feel so incredibly uncomfortable like walking anywhere other than Ultraflex with like a tank top or a vest on.
Yeah, I remember the closest thing I've had to that was I think it was like 2 years ago. I went back to my uni to meet up with some mates, and we went on a night out. And I was wearing like a kind of fitted t-shirt, and obviously like I'm not big, but compared to like the average person who goes to Aberystwyth University out in the sticks of Wales. Like, I might as well have been on.
You're bigger than 90% of the population, mate. So don't shit on yourself too much.
Yeah, like 180 pounds. But yeah, I remember.
Bigger than
You're
the sheep as
doing
well.
that thing though, aren't you? You're putting yourself, little. You're desensitized yourself. You don't think you're big, but you are. Like if you picked out 90% of the population by random and you plonked you in there somewhere, you in terms of muscle mass, you'd be at the top 10%.
Yeah, true. To be fair, like I remember having conversations with people in prep. I'll keep this as a quick tangent. Where like my mates who didn't bodybuild would be like, "Oh, you're gonna win your show," and I'd be like, "Okay, I'm big for a normal person. I'm lean for a normal person, but like in the grand scheme of bodybuilding, I'm not that good, and that's fine. Like, I still like my physique. I'm still going to improve it, but like grand scheme of bodybuilding, it's like I don't think you understand who I'm going up against, and it's like if you stood them next to me." Like, if I show you a picture on Instagram, some of them would be like, "Oh, that's how you look to me." And I'm like, "Well, thank you, but I'm not 220 lean." But, it's like, if you stand them next to me, it's like, "Oh, shit, okay, yeah, no, there are levels to this." But yeah, I remember I was in the pub at, like, 2 a.m., pint in hand, and some guy walks up to me and just goes, "Hey, man, what do you do for triceps?" And I was like, "Bro, don't... Like, this is my job. Don't ask me this now." I was like, "Here's my Instagram. Message me in the morning. Talk about."
Pint in hand.
I was like, "We're not talking about elbow
Mate.
extension in the middle of the pub at 2 a.m. Like, I can't be asked to deal with like, oh, anything works. Just don't be a dickhead with your setup and execution and tracking."
It's the dieting thing. People come, "Oh, could you do me a diet plan?" And I'm like,
What's the point?
no.
I had someone ask.
Like,
for a
could you help me lose some fat? Like, randomly just catch me somewhere, or do you reckon you could get me lean? Do you reckon you could get me to lose some weight? And I'm like, I could, yeah, but I'm not going to talk about it now. Or,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just so.
It's a bit of a rabbit hole when someone just randomly. It's like, well, this. Like, it's quite a simple process, but I might have quite a lot to unpack with your personal beliefs about it. But when I get DMs all the time, are like, "Can I get a one-off diet plan?" And I'm like, "Okay, look, yeah, sure, but if you really want that, fine. But like, what are you gonna do? Like, follow it for a little bit and then probably not adhere, and then like, if you do follow it, it's not gonna last forever." I'm like, why one-off? Like, what? Me telling you to have bagels instead of cereal in the morning isn't really gonna do that much for you. It's like...
Or just this arbitrary number of amount of foods that I have no idea about you or what you do, or...
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I
It's
mean?
like there's a lot, like, if you want to, like, if you want to talk coaching, cool, because that is actually going to be more helpful. But yeah, I don't know, people have a very weird idea of like, "Oh, how did you get big?" "Oh, I ran into this guy at a rave who was 6'6", and I asked him for some ideas, and he told me what to have for
He
breakfast."
nailed it. He was amazing. Best fucking guy. Honestly, the amount of information he gave me was... He'd make a great coach.
It's like, "Oh, I asked him what he did for biceps, and now I've got now I'm 180 pounds, but my arms are 30 inches." It's like, I don't know what it is, but I guess that is what
I don't think I believe that story.
How did you become a pro bodybuilder? I just asked Max for his meal plan. I just followed that forever, and I've just grown and got leaner.
Enquire now. Link in bio.
One-off meal plans now available. It's the same thing. Copy and pasted. Oh Lord! All right, we've taken up enough of your time, mate. But for what it's worth, do a little plug. All of the guests do it, so don't get shy. We'll have your links down below. But where can people find you? What do you kind of offer?
Online coach, obviously, is spoken about in the podcast. And in terms of myself, I'm a classic physique bodybuilder or competitive bodybuilder. Where you can find me, Instagram, Mirin Max, or Mirin.max, and fucking hell, I've lost my train of thought. And in terms of links and stuff, so obviously I've got my podcast, the Made for More podcast, which I would massively encourage anyone watching this to go and check it out. I think it heavily revolves around mindset and developing skills in order to become successful in different chosen fields. We've only got a couple of episodes in, but we're going to do Well, we've got quite a few more scheduled to come up over the next couple of months. Going to have Kuba and Meg soon. That'd be fun. Yeah, looking at Joe Jeffries, Kuba, Meg, and then we're going to start branching out, looking at having way more diverse guests, like some CrossFitters, a psychotherapist, and and a few others. Should be really interesting. Anyway, I digress.
No, wait. If
Go
you
on.
could have anyone on the pod, so you'd like theoretically anyone, who would you have? Is there anyone that would you like to sit down and grill JP?
No.
If you release
It would make great TV, but I would, but it's not who I would want to.
Fair.
Honestly, at this moment in time, I'm really looking forward to getting Kuba on. We've had many conversations over the last 6 months, and they've been, as well as consults that I've had with him, and they've been very interesting, very insightful. Not just in terms of what he knows around bodybuilding, but getting to know him on a more personal level as well, which was nice actually. It's getting beyond the front or the shield that he has up as his persona was it was nice, and I look forward to hopefully doing that a bit more on the podcast. Not to completely uncover who he is as an individual, but just to I guess just understand him a bit more, because I think he is in the bodybuilding sphere. I think he is largely misunderstood as a human being. So I'm really looking forward to that. But in terms of any other guests I would love to have on, do you know what, mate? I would love to, and I don't think I'd ever do it because it just wouldn't be good, wouldn't make for good TV. But I'd love to have my mum on. She's done a first in psychology. She's a qualified psychologist, and I just think she's mega interesting, and I love everything that she says. And maybe I'm being a bit biased, but I think we always have really great and in-depth conversations, and I think there'd be a lot for people to take from that. But I just know people wouldn't watch it because she's she's a nobody. But maybe in the future.
I think you'd be surprised. I think, especially if you have very insightful conversations. Maybe this is showing a bit too much behind the scenes for the podcast, but if you took clips from it of those insightful conversations and posted it up, I think initially maybe if it's here's my mum, people might be like, what? But then if you showed clips of being here's the conversations that we have on Instagram.
Some of the...
Yeah. I think it would do pretty well, and it'd be an easy one to do.
Mate, without her, I'd definitely not have. Wouldn't have grown and developed in the ways that I have over the last couple of years. She's been a catalyst towards a lot of that growth, and like I said, the conversations that we've had, I think, are applicable to most. And maybe you've made a really good point there, so that's something that I'll definitely consider.
Oh yeah, Mr. Businessman.
Appreciate that.
Anything else that you want to plug before we do our little plug?
No, mate. That's it. People will have gathered that I'm an online coach. If you're interested in working with me, I don't. It's not exclusively with younger guys, but I think if you are a younger lad watching this and you're unsure about your direction and you feel like you want the appropriate amount of support and guidance to navigate your way through what I consider sometimes a very tricky bodybuilding community, culture, industry, then I'd like to think I'm your guy.
Nice, man. So for anyone watching or listening, first link in the description will be Max's Instagram, where you can send him a DM, inquire, ask questions, or sign up for coaching. After that will be linked to us as coaches. You guys know what we do. And then underneath that, Conti Sports, you know the drill, yada, yada, yada. Max, mate, thank you so much for coming on. Honestly, I was actually quite nervous going into this one, mate. So, so yeah, man, very cool, quite surreal as well. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and we will catch you next week, where I think we finally have Aaron coming on, but we'll find out. Who knows? Anyway, thank you all for listening. Goodbye.